Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Scott Luton and Greg White here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Greg, how you doing?
I am holding up pretty well, Scott, after having walked about 20 miles in the last 2 days, but all worth it.
Yeah. Do
So,
tell, do tell.
the Heritage Golf Tournament, which is now an elevated tournament. They doubled the purse money,
Yeah.
prize money. So now a whole bunch more golfers that we've heard of play it. And it went into we got free golf yesterday. They had a sudden death playoff between Jordan Spieth and Matt Fitzpatrick,
Yep.
Matt Fitzpatrick, who ultimately won by hitting the ball that close from about 180 yards on the
Man.
18th hole. Truly impressive to do that. So, but it was a lot of walking, huge crowds, and I despise waiting to park,
Yeah.
and just couldn't bear to ride a shuttle, so I rode my bike, which was not a huge ride, but after having walked around all day, I'm feeling it.
Well, it sounds like a great time. It was a great
Was
tournament. Weather was gorgeous.
Yes.
There weren't 3 days worth of weather delays like it was last weekend, and you will have to get pictures from Greg White, especially as you rode your bike.
I didn't take pictures while riding my bike. I did see some people who shouldn't have been riding their bike. Just on one trip home, I saw a bald eagle, a
Wow.
guy crash into a tree on his bike, and a
Okay.
deer jump out in front of a moving vehicle.
Man.
The whole area that the course is in is it's a big housing development,
Yes.
also a nature preserve. So just incredible. I mean, alligators everywhere. All the fun stuff you see on television.
Man. Okay. Well, maybe Mutual of Omaha will sponsor your next golf adventure. But hey, regardless, folks,
Just go around.
I don't know. That's a throwback for sure. And a little tie-in maybe for some of our listeners. Animal Kingdom was a program that came on decades ago and was famously sponsored for years by Mutual of Omaha. I can picture the host now, but we'll save that for
Marlon Perkins, is that right?
sounds about right. Sounds about right. Maybe someone in the cheap seats can help us out there. But
Mutual of
folks,
Omaha still exists, Scott. Just for your
oh really? Okay, all right. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, folks, today, no, we're not talking golf. We're not talking Animal Kingdom or an insurance. We're talking supply chain. It's a Supply Chain Buzz live
Indeed.
show that comes at you every Monday at 12 noon Eastern time. As always, Greg and I, and many of you, will be discussing a variety of news and developments today, really across global business. And hey, we want to hear from you. So give us your take in the comments. We're going to say hello to a few folks momentarily. And Greg, in fact, if
Yes.
any of our listeners or viewers are listening or watching to the podcast replay of this, hey, we invite you, consider joining us live on LinkedIn or YouTube or one of the other social media channels of your choosing. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, Greg, let's
Mhm.
let's share a couple program notes, and then we're going to say hello to a few folks. We want to invite you, all of you, to our next webinar session. We had one heck of a webinar last week. Y'all may
Yeah.
have caught that one, all focused on supply chain planning. Well, coming up on May 4th at 12 noon Eastern time with our friends at Evenflow and Infor, we are diving into what running a data-driven supply chain means to Evenflow as they've gone through supply chain transformation that has helped power them through this crazy environment we're in, driving successful outcomes, including driving customer experience or optimizing customer experience. So, Greg, should be a great session on May 4th, 12 noon Eastern time, right?
Data driven is the only way to do it. I have to
Mm.
confess a minor distraction. I have Pearl Jam going through my head right now, but yeah, I mean, I think, look, the bar has been raised. We've asked for a seat at the table. We've gotten it. We've gotten the awareness that we wanted, and now we have to continue to earn it. So, data driven, metric driven supply chain, absolute must.
Yep.
And if you can learn from a company that's doing it, right, it's free.
That's right. That's right. And we guarantee your
Get your
your
money's worth.
admission charges. That's right.
That's right.
Satisfaction guarantee.
That's right.
And little, I love what Greg said there about Pearl Jam. Even Flow was a great tune, and I think one of their first big hits. If you're a
Yeah.
music lover, so I love how you work that in there, Greg, as always. Okay, so that's webinar next week, but this week we've got a wonderful live stream coming up this Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. It's part of the Supply Chain Now OGs. It's
Hmm.
Paul Noble and Nick Griffith with Verison. And we're going to be talking about some opportunities for savings and reducing friction and a lot more that might be right up under your nose. Greg, I know you know this really well, huh?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of value out there. Look, we keep asking the question, how many parts does it take to build an F-150? All of them. But the parts that go into creating the parts or moving the parts or assembling the parts, all of that matters too. I think the layers that exist in the supply chain, this is a great opportunity to discover what those layers are, how to impact those affirmatively, and make sure that the supply chain keeps moving and keeps moving cost effectively.
That's right. Folks, join us. I promise you, you're not going to miss it this Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. And we drop the links both to the webinar there in the chat as well as to the live stream. So you're one click away from making it
Wow.
really easy.
It's like we have done this before. Not we, Scott. We
Well,
don't do
okay.
anything, but yeah, it's like
Greg,
the pros behind the scenes have done this before.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Greg, because it dawned. I forgot until last night. We've been watching, and Amanda remind me of the title. It's a dating show on Netflix. And last night, Greg, if you saw it, millions of other people saw it. Netflix decided to live stream the finale. However, I'm not
Whoa.
sure. I'm not sure they have live streamed previously, so they had a massive collapse. Folks couldn't
What?
connect. Yes, Netflix, the billion-dollar player in all the world of streaming, had some serious issues live streaming, and that reminded me, Greg, to what you said a minute ago, folks. Just because it looks easy doesn't mean it is easy. So if
That's a good point.
Netflix can run into some challenges, anyone can.
Yeah.
So all right. So Greg, let's say hello to a few folks. And Jonathan's back with us via LinkedIn. Jonathan, hope this finds you well. Always enjoy your perspective. This is Susie Martinez from LA, and we're not talking Lower Alabama, Greg.
No.
Mom is with us back. Welcome in Leah Luton from
Thanks.
Aiken, South Kakalaki.
Mom.
Natalie tuned in again via LinkedIn from Charlotte, North Carolina. Great to see you, Natalie. Joseph Moretta.
Wow.
Been a while.
Blast from the past. Yeah. Welcome back.
I bet he hails Greg. If he's still in the New York City area, I believe, doing some great things, including creating some great podcast content. This is Felix from Scotland. Felix, hope this finds you well. Mark Preston is back in the house from Peachtree City, GA. Mark,
He
hope
just
this
got
finds
back from Starbucks on his golf cart.
you. Maybe so. Maybe so. And then look here. Natalie said that she started her supply chain career. I'm gonna say a couple decades ago. That's our rule.
Right. More
with Evenflow, Greg.
Huh. How about that?
Small world. Small world.
So I would love to have you join, Natalie, and judge harshly. How are they doing now versus when you were there?
Absolutely. Let's see. Vilal, perhaps via LinkedIn. Great to see you here. If I got your name wrong, please let us know. We want to get those right. And then finally, Sheldon is back with us, present and accounted for.
All right.
A good day to all. All right. Greg, are you ready to get started?
Yes, God, I am.
Man, we got a bunch of work to get into. I want to share one more resource with folks. Or with that said, this was a fun LinkedIn newsletter to put together, Greg. Supply Chain Factoids, Air and Sea. And so we had about 21,000 subscribers read over the weekend. Some of the things we're going to tackle here today, the busiest global airports, and number one won't surprise you probably, and the busiest U.S. container ports, seaports, and a lot more. So make sure you sign up for With That Said. It hits every Saturday or Sunday morning, and it offers a different twist on the wide world of global supply chain.
Yeah, one that isn't a surprise, of course, is Atlanta is the busiest airport in the world.
That's right.
Every year since 1996. But how high Georgia ports landed was surprising to me. And what that tells me, Scott, is there's a lot of volume going through Brunswick,
Yes,
right? And a lot of it, of course, vehicles because of all the automotive production that's done here. So
you're so
very
right.
interesting stuff.
And folks, if you dig that kind of stuff, you're in a good spot because we're going to dive into those top 10 lists here towards the bottom of the hour, or towards the second half of the show. Your pick, your pick. Which
Bottom of the hour. Just think about where the hand's pointing.
Okay, bottom of the hour. Thank you, Greg. I know I can count on you. All right, folks. Let's dive into our first topic here today. I'm gonna bring this up here. This is interesting, and I would treat this as good news. I really think this is good news, at least from my perspective. So, from an e-commerce delivery standpoint, Greg, we're seeing signs that consumers are starting to realize, hey, I don't need those socks and toothpicks. Rush to me by tomorrow. That's great.
Right.
And it appears it's a new trend for consumers are being a little more patient when it comes to delivery. For example, the Big A, so Amazon Delivery Day program they rolled out, I think in 2020. It focuses, as many of our listeners may know, on delivering 1 day a week to Amazon customers, cutting down on deliveries and packaging. So subscribers to this service have doubled since 2020.
Hmm.
As this article that comes to us from our friends at the Wall Street Journal points out, in a recent survey by Pop Out Inc., e-commerce shoppers that preferred same or next day delivery dropped from 18%, which sounds to me low anyway, but according to their data, 18% to 10%. And then other surveys that y'all find in this article show that overall delivery speed is overall a lessening priority for consumers. So, Greg, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this development.
Thank heavens is what I have to say. I was just thinking, Scott, about us kvetching about Christmas at 2020 with all the boxes that we had stacked up in our respective garages after the holidays, right?
Right.
And, what an effort we put in to try and do that. We have been Amazon Delivery Day customers, whatever you want to call it, from virtually the very beginning. So our day's Wednesday. So if you ever want to steal anything off my front porch, Wednesday is the day to do it. Scott, I don't know what your day is, but I can't wait to hear. But I think what's important is the recognition that we aren't buying a ton of stuff that we didn't have before. Now we're replenishing things. It's easier to get out of the house, right? And people want to get out of the house. I mean, have always, I think, wanted to, right? I still have some things delivered, and I still appreciate 2-day delivery, not necessarily from Amazon, but Costco, because our other house, as you know, is on an island. So I don't even know how many miles. It's like 90 miles to the nearest Costco, which, is torture for my wife.
And hello, Vicky.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's good that there's some sanity here. I love the idea of scheduling it, and finally, people, because now that we're back to spending our own money, right? That was part of what this article was about. Because we're back to spending our own money, we care how much it costs to have things delivered, and demand for same day and even hours or 15 minutes delivery has gone way, way down on those things. I think we're learning to plan a little bit better. But isn't it interesting, Scott, that nearly 3 years since the shutdown, the lockdowns of the pandemic, we're still seeing the ripples of those, what I would always argue are temporary shifts in the economy. And some of them are just starting to filter their way out of prominence in the economy.
Yeah.
I think we'll start to see it more towards the second half of this year. We're going to talk about, I think everybody knows what I'm alluding to, but we're going to talk about the economy and where it's going, at least in the States, and where it's gone in other parts of the world. But I think we're going to see some economic headwinds to excessive exuberance and, get anything right now at any cost.
Yep. There's so much to talk about in this development, and this isn't overnight. This has been gradual, right? But I go back to when I read this, first off, this kind of it's aligned with how I've always, or at least for the most part, approached my e-commerce decisions. Right, I hate the notion, as you were alluding to, of all the not only all the packaging, but man, all the trips for one small little package here, one item there, whatever. Um, so I love what's taking place here, and I think also, Greg, is it thinks it comes what comes to my mind is your comment about consumers are the beginning and the end, and hopefully, and I'm going on I'm make a little leap here. Hopefully, consumers really have had that eureka moment that hey, if they value sustainability and reducing empty miles, all the things, well, they play a really active role. And if we can shift our thinking that we don't need those toothpicks next day, we don't need that pair of woven socks same day. If we can really play an active role in changing those expectations, it really will help global supply chain to make more gains when it comes to all things sustainability and then some. So I think that's really why it's good news in my ears, Greg. I know you're dying to comment
Your
here.
faith in humanity is so encouraging, Scott. Mine is a little bit more, I don't want to say practical. Let's call it pragmatic. And that is, when it costs more, we will do less of it. And it should cost more because of the inefficiencies that are inherent. And I think people are finally succumbing to that. Look, I am a firm believer that economics drive every company's and every person's virtually every decision.
Yep.
And because companies absorbed that for a long, long time and can no longer, now it's back on the consumer, and the consumer won't absorb it, at least for now, right?
Yep.
I think we have to acknowledge this sort of false economies that we've lived in for the last 2-ish years with all the government subsidies for us existing, which was nice. I didn't get any, but I'm sure it was nice for those that did. And now that we're back, like I said, now that we're back to spending our own money, yes, our altruism will show through our saving our own money.
Yes.
Right? We will become accidental environmentalists, right? Like my great grandparents who said things like, turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth, you're wasting water. Shut off the lights when you leave a room, you're wasting electricity, right? They weren't, I wouldn't say they were against saving the environment, but they weren't solely focused on it, right? They were focused on what impacted their pocketbook. And when doing worse for the environment impacts your pocketbook negatively, that's when you'll do better for the environment.
Well, the phrase that comes to my mind as you shared that is, hey, I don't care what you call me as long as you call me. And a little twist on it, I don't care why you do it as long as we're making gains when it comes to these sustainability initiatives.
Do the right thing.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Just do the right thing. And as we've talked about, we don't have to dive deeper here, doing the right thing can really help the bottom line. That's where we're seeing some leaders out there, right?
That's an entire discussion unto itself, which we have had from time to time, we'll have in the future. But you and I align completely on this, and that is, I firmly believe that you can do the right thing and create profitability, better cash flow, and impact on your company or your personal life. Absolutely can do it.
Yep. Agreed. Super aligned using modern day lexicon.
Super. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's say hello to a few folks. Mohib is back with us. Professor Mohib.
Hey.
It's been forever.
Yes. He's been busy, though. I mean, if you've been following him, it's easy to see that he's been busy, right?
Yes.
There's a lot going on at Wichita State University.
That's right. Well, so he has, and I've seen him really active in the project management space, which is great. He's always doing great things for his students. So Mohib, hope you and your family are doing well. And he says Pearl Jam was way ahead of their time on supply chain. Even Flow is the theme song, synchronized supply chain parts, information, and cash.
Right.
I just rolled. Mohib, you paint a wonderful picture, and I love how you wove in one of the greatest bands of the 20th century there.
Everybody who's ever heard that song it's now going through their head. And it probably should be like he said, a theme song.
Right. We know, hey, maybe we can get Eddie Vedder to join us on our webinar in May when
Yeah, probably, Scott. Yeah.
All right. So, and Greg, you still can't make me laugh, man. That's I'm still getting over the pollen.
Hit the
And
doctor's office. You got to
yes,
hit the doctor's office.
that's right. I gotta get there. All right. Let's see here. And folks, we did drop the link to that first read. Hey, y'all check it out. Let us know what you think. Don't take our word for it. Hey, Tom Rafter, good to see you. Appreciate your content. You're cranking out all the
Is
time.
he in Sevilla? Sevilla?
I believe still in Spain. Yes, that's a great memory, Greg. Man. T squared holds down for us on YouTube. It's Monday. Bring on the nourishment. It's coming. T squared. It is coming.
I like how he writes the accent in there.
I do too. And folks, if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, hey, why are you waiting? What are you waiting for? It's easy. You can see it, you can hear it, you can comment. And as T squared has said in previous broadcasts, there's not as many firewall issues. So check out
Oh,
YouTube.
is that right? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Donna K. Great to see you, Donna. Love the excessive exuberance, Greg. Is that anything like irrational exuberance? She asks.
Yeah, but I'm a sucker for alliteration, so I always change it. Also, I cannot remember who the Fed chairperson was who came up with irrational exuberance. Was it Bernanke? I can't remember. Anyway, but love that. Yeah,
I do too. And hey, you know this guy. I remember Eric Wilhelm. He loves how cute we are together. Eric, hey,
thank you.
We appreciate that.
We've got not matching quarter zips, but we've got quarter zips.
We got quarter zips for days. Eric, hope it's been a while. Hope this finds you well. And I think you still do it. I love your charitable golf tournament each year that you and the team have put on and invested in and really helping kids and families. So hope this finds you well. Great to have you here today.
I think Eric has sold yet another company.
Really?
Recently. Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Pretty much he finds a hole in the market, fills it, and then somebody else comes and goes, hey, we'll have some of that. Right? Then he just goes and does it again and again.
Oh, again and again. Rinse and repeat.
Oh my gosh. And I just told him he lives right behind me, and now he knows what my Amazon day is.
He's gonna be your package is gonna be gone.
That's it.
Greg.
That's it.
At least we'll know who did it.
Amazon package again.
All right. So let me share. We got a lot of comments here. I'm gonna share two quick ones. Tom, I always say that being sustainable, shouldn't cost more. The opposite, because so much of sustainability is about getting waste out of systems. It should be cheaper.
Exactly. I mean, I think we have to confess that there is a lot of slack in the supply chain, and exactly to Tom's point, we can benefit by taking that slack out, and that slack impacts ESG as well. So.
Yeah. Excellent point. Thank you, Tom. And I know you're very passionate and put out a lot of great content along those lines. Amanda, getting back to comic relief. She said, I had a substitute teacher in 7th grade chorus that wore fringed cowboy boots and sang Even Flow for us. She'll never forget it. I bet that picture paints 1,000. Those words paint 1,000 pictures there. All right. So, Greg, where are we going next here? Let's see what we're covering next. I think we are going to dive into some of these economic trends that you speak of. So, Greg, beyond economics, also some industrial trends here in the U.S. as reported by our friends at Reuters. So here's the core numbers. This is a full article, lots of moving pieces. I'm going to give you the TikTok version of what was delivered here. Retail sales fell 1% in March, which is more than expected. The decrease, Greg, was seen generally across sectors, except one bright spot was online sales, which were up 1.9%, as folks maybe were out there looking for deals. Now, according to data from the Fed, manufacturing production fell 0.5% in March, and this comes on the heels of what we thought was good news in February, where manufacturing production had increased 0.6%. Lastly, perhaps some good news here. We'll see. We need a lot more data to roll in. Some signs point to inflation retreating. But Greg, I got to tell you, at the grocery store this weekend with Amanda and I saw no signs of inflation retreating. So, Greg, your thoughts on these economic and industrial trends and then some?
Well, I think it's a sign that what the Fed is doing is working. The intent is to slow down the economy. And what was a bit of a surprise for me was that retail sales are mostly bought on credit.
Hmm.
I, I wonder how many. It makes me wonder how many people buy it on credit and then immediately pay it off. But I had never really thought about the fact that, at least in the States, right, that so many people buy retail goods on credit. Now, they're not talking about grocery; they're talking about goods other
Right.
than grocery. But I think that shows that it's starting to slow. But I think we have to recognize that does not mean prices are dropping. That just means they're continuing to rise at a rate less than they were rising before.
Excellent point. Preach that louder, folks in the back. It's the rate. It's the rate versus the actual absolute dollar value, right?
Right. Nothing is going down in prices. Some housing, rents in some cases though are starting to go down, and we're starting to see some impact on the commercial side of that. But yeah, prices they're continuing to go up at more than double the rate that the Fed has as a target, which is about 2%. So inflation is still rampant, and we continue to see it. At least it's not accelerating, but I think the Fed is a long way from backing it down. Honestly, I mean, again, I'm going to qualify this with my usual statement, which is not an economist, but right every bit as often as they are, which is almost never. I think it was a mistake for the Fed not to have gone a half a point the last time, and I think we're going to continue to see this will not. Again, my prediction: this next raise of rates will not be the last one.
Yep. Yeah, I think they're and also I'll preface this by saying not only am I not an economist, but nothing I've ever done in my entire life reflects that one iota that I am even a potential economist. No, no interest. That's not my gift to be on this earth, folks. But to Greg's last point, I think we're poised for another increase in May. And overall, Greg, if I'm not mistaken, all of these rises is one of the biggest fiscal policy changes in decades by the Fed.
Since the 80s.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Right, and also, by the way, based on the 80s standard measurement of inflation, we're at virtually the same inflation rate, except for interest rates. We're at virtually the same inflation rate as we had in the 80s. But they've changed the inflation rate measurement to filter, I would argue, obfuscate real inflation.
That's a good word. Obfuscate. One of my favorites. I'm going to learn how to spell it and use it one day. All right. So enough about economics, folks. Y'all check out. We have dropped the link to that article right there in the chat. Y'all one click away. Let us know what you think. A couple comments here. T Squared says price gouging is alive and well. Catherine says, I'll say nothing's going down. It's still $2 for a can of beans at my grocery store. Hey, same. I feel your pain. Let's see here. Greg Studer from the pride of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I believe, says, ask 10 economists the same question and you'll get 10 different answers with the same data used. Greg, great to have you here. Greg, I think Greg's right.
I think all Gregs are right, especially in this case.
That's right. That is right. All right. So, Greg, great to have you here. And let's keep driving. I want to share, a minute ago, we touched on Eric and one of his big charitable initiatives each year. Well, folks, this is one of ours, right? And there's other things that certainly we invest in and support. But this Leveraging Logistics for Ukraine initiative, which has sadly been going on for over a year, well, it's still in need, right? There's still a ton of need out there. So the next planning session that really drives these efforts, and when I say these efforts to get almost 1 million tons of humanitarian aid to families in need in Ukraine and Poland. That's right, working together with led by Vector Global Logistics and the ecosystem that they've really pulled together. Man, the numbers are big, eye popping. Well, all of that's driven by these monthly planning sessions. So we invite you to join us for the next one, May 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You don't have to give anything, you don't have to say anything. You can just sign up and get a sense of what's going on. Greg, your comments around this program here.
I'm tired of talking about this program, honestly. It's a
Yep.
travesty that this is still going on, right? But I mean, as long as it is, it's something worth listening to. It's something worth supporting, and it's a really good cause. It is. There is no overhead taken. Whatever you donate goes straight to those in need. That
Yep.
to me is the most important thing.
Yep. Agreed, folks. And we drop the link in the chat. You're one click away from checking that out. All right. So moving right ahead. Now this is cool. We talked about this on the front end of the show, and I want to share some of these numbers here. So first off, Greg, let's talk about the world's busiest airports. Now, this data came out from our friends at the Airports Council International, ACI World. And this came out in early April, right? So number one, as Greg mentioned, was Atlanta, GA. And that shouldn't surprise many folks. But Greg, one of the things that did surprise me, and folks, when we talk about busiest, this is, as you can see there in the graphic, this is total passengers in-planed and deplaned. Passengers in transit counted once. That's a little note from the ACI about the data. But Greg, I was surprised how many U.S. airports make up the top 10 in the latest figures here. And I'll read these off for anyone who might be listening to the podcast replay. Atlanta, number 1, Dallas, Fort Worth, number 2, Denver, Colorado, number 3, Chicago, number 4, Dubai, number 5, LAX, number 6, Istanbul, number 7, London, that's Heathrow, number 8, New Delhi, number 9, and Paris, number 10. Greg, your thoughts here around these busiest airports?
I'm honestly a little bit surprised not to see Frankfurt and Amsterdam in the top. They have always been very busy airports, and it is incredible that there are so many in the States that are so busy. But I mean, it just goes to, if you look at the change versus 21 against the change, versus 2019, you can see there's still a lot of opportunity to come back to volume levels, which seems impossible for me to understand. If you've been on a flight in the last year or so,
right,
they all seem crowded, and I can only guess that there are fewer flights, and that's why they're packed to the brim.
Yep.
So, I don't know. What do you think, Scott? I think,
well, packed to the rim with brim sounds like a commercial from the 80s, I believe. But
coffee.
Yes, it was a terrible. And sorry if brim is still
Right?
around. I used to drink it as a kid because I couldn't make coffee, but I could make instant coffee. My mom let me make that. It's a little bit different. But back to these busiest airports, it's interesting to look at what you were calling out, Greg. The 2019, the 2021, and 2022 rankings. I mean, look at this. Dubai, look at Dubai. They're number 4 in 2019. They were 27th in 2021, and then back to 5th in 2022. And if you go to Istanbul, Turkey here, they've had a more of a gradual progression from 28th in 2019 to 14th in 2021 to top 10, number 7 in 2022. Heathrow, of course, is no newcomer to this list, as I think you mentioned.
Right.
It's one of the world's busiest airports for millennium, it feels like. But I wouldn't, and I'd love to dive in deeper here with Dallas and Denver, not so much Chicago, but Dallas and Denver being 2 and 3. That was surprising to me, Greg.
Yeah, I can't explain those. One, Dallas, I believe, is an American Airlines hub. In fact, I'll be going through it today on my way to the 6th largest airport, LAX.
Yep.
And Denver, I think, is a United hub.
There we go.
It probably has something to do with being a hub for some of the larger airlines.
Yep.
And remember the good old days when Chicago or Tokyo were the busiest airports in And those were in some cases the old days.
Well, and you would know, and I'm not going to put your status out there, but you have been flying airplanes and have flown a lot of them. So I bet you could almost write a book on your travels, Greg. But I'm looking forward to hearing your.
Yeah, if it hadn't been just for business, I probably could. Yeah. I've seen, as you know, as I've told many people, I have seen the inside of airports, taxi cabs, and hotels in some of the most beautiful places in the world.
There and back in a hurry. Well, folks, check it out. We got a link here to this data. You'll also see air cargo and its rankings there, and you're also looking at those numbers. You'll see kind of the market that has been in. But check it out. Let us know what you think from the data that was released about 2 weeks ago. All right, so Greg, not only are we going to cover airports, but we're going to cover U.S. container ports, seaports. So check this out. So this is from our friends at Supply Chain Dive, one of the a great source for all sorts of content and supply chain. I like the whole Dive family of publications. I know we talk about Retail Dive here a lot, but they've got a whole family. So check out this is I only put here the top 5. They put, as you can tell with this graphic, they built a top 12 list, but I wanted to really look at the top 5 because Greg, you mentioned this on the front end. Georgia Ports comes in number 4. So I'll just read these from top to bottom. This, again, shouldn't surprise anybody in terms of the rankings, but let's look at the trends. So number 1, Port of LA. Number 2, Port of New York and New Jersey. And this, again, is busiest container ports in 2022. Number 3, Port of Long Beach. Number 4, Georgia Ports. Number 5, Port Houston there in Texas. But look at the 5-year trends here, Greg. The Port of LA has gained about 452,000 TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units in that 5-year. But the Port of New York and New Jersey up 2.3 million TEUs. Port of Long Beach up 1 million. The Georgia ports 1.5 million TEUs gained in the last 5 years.
That's a 33% increase for those ports, for the Georgia ports. That is an incredible lift. Same for Houston. And, a lot of that we've talked about over the last, 3 years now, that a lot of that was the shifting of goods coming from China to Port Houston and Georgia ports as well. And, of course, New York, except for maybe Boston, the nation's biggest and most long-running commercial ports, right? So,
well, fascinating list. Y'all can check out the full top 12 list clicking on this link here. And again, big thanks to our friends at Supply Chain Dive that put out great content and data-driven content. That might be the phrase of today. Greg, we are just shooting through news topics here on this busy Monday morning, April 17th. Tough to believe we're halfway through the 4th month of 2023. Where has time gone, to your point? All right. Next couple topics here. I want to share a couple of our series, Greg, that folks should hopefully these series aren't new to our listeners. But, one of the things we are very passionate about, Greg, is supporting our veteran community here, right? One of our longest running series have been Veteran Voices. And look at there. Veteran Voices has published their 77th podcast episode. This one features David Trenholm, U.S. Navy veteran. Great conversation, of course, led, Greg, by the uber talented Mary Kate Saliva, an Army veteran doing wonderful work. But Greg, when we think about the veteran journey and overall veteran experience, especially here in the 21st century, when we've been at war for 2 decades, and one of the things we've talked about and we support regularly, dating back to I was asked the other day, hey, when did you meet Greg White? And I was like, well, he was on the show early before we worked together, but what really stuck out in my brain, Greg, beyond your wonderful perspective and expertise that I get a kick out of a couple times a week, But if you remember back with the Georgia Logistics Summit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in what was that, 2017 or something? Whatever it was.
17 or 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so we had put an effort together to send 100 veterans at no charge to them to this big supply chain event. It was Georgia Logistics Summit and Modex co-located,
Right.
and we had to put together money to make that happen because I think the charge was $60 per ticket or something, and we didn't want the veterans to come out of pocket to be able to network and find jobs and gather market intel. Well, Greg, and I know you don't tout this, but this is, again, I was being asked where we first met. As I started to raise money as a broke young entrepreneur, I said, "Hey, Greg, this is what I'm doing." And Greg, I don't think I finished the sentence, and you had written a check and sent it my way. And then, better yet, you took that donation and you rebel roused the rest of the board members to see, okay, look here, I can't be the only one doing this. And we met our goal.
Yep.
Not only do we meet our goal, but we got we coordinated with 100 veterans to get out. And Greg, this, I think of the art of creating your own luck, because we didn't expect these veterans to actually have job opportunities at the summit. We knew that conversations may go, may produce a wild variety of things. But Greg, is one of the companies I think that you were advising actually wanted to hire veterans,
Right.
and they were offering jobs at the event to some of these folks that came out.
Yeah, that's right. I was I was running a startup at the time that was predominantly owned by the same investment group as this group that builds fulfillment warehouses, and I didn't even talk to the board about it. I think it was for 10, maybe
Yeah,
10
you're right.
veterans, right? And I didn't, so I didn't talk to the board about it. But then I just mentioned it to one of the board members, and they're like, "Hey, we want to hire vets, so can you let them know that we want to do that as they come in?" And yeah, and it worked out. Yeah, serendipitous, that, right?
Oh man, absolutely. And again, all this is kind of anecdotal to our listeners and viewers as I was reflecting on this Veteran Voices program and kind of its genesis and all the different things that have transpired ever since. This was a big early early event in our Veteran Voices programming. Finding real tangible ways to support our veterans, not in not lip service driven, but really trying to get them in events. And in this case, as Greg shared, man, if you can remotely help find jobs, I mean, that's what it's all about. So, folks,
I think
go ahead, Greg.
the particular motivation for me and you, Scott, is your experience with transition, which you were fortunately successful for, but not
Mm,
every. It's not simple, but it's not as successful for every veteran. And what we've realized over time, Scott and I, from doing this, is that the military culture is so insular. They have their
mm,
own language. They learn logistics in the military and assume that, and they have no other basis of reference other than to assume that that's how logistics works elsewhere, because
right.
literally logistics was defined by the military thousands and thousands of years
Right.
ago, right? So what logistics has evolved to in the civilian realm is far different than what it is, what it exists as in the military realm. And creating that translation between military and the civilian realm is really, really critical. I think it, Scott, really requires companies to understand military logistics at whatever level we are allowed to,
You're right.
and what it moves and how things move and to what end, and that sort of thing, so that you can create a frame of reference for the veteran, because the veteran is not going to be able to do that.
Right.
It's not because of lack of anything except frame of reference. When you are in the military, you don't discuss how civilian logistics occur at
Right.
all, and therefore you have no frame of reference. It's just like you think your mom's apple pie is the best apple pie because you've never had anything else, right? Although it may be in some cases. But I think that initiative, if I could encourage employers or people who are trying to assist with that transition, is to understand that transition and be able to speak both languages, both the civilian realm and the military realm of logistics, to say, okay, if you have these skills or you did this thing in the military, that applies to how you might, to this aspect of logistics in the civilian realm. That building that bridge is really, really critical.
Yep, 100% agree. And folks, as Greg is calling out there, man, lean in to the veteran talent pipeline, because once they're given that frame of reference, once they're charged with their responsibilities, they can figure it out, right? They can figure it out. And there's civilian, and I don't want to typecast, but because folks, more and more hiring managers hadn't served in the military. Sometimes there can be, since they don't understand everything that Greg is just kind of sharing there, they kind of pull back. But don't do that. There's a human element at play there. Don't do that. Lean into the veteran talent pipeline, and man, you can really meet or help. It'll really help you address your overall staffing needs. And Greg, yes, sounds like being a good leader, reaching out and helping others. Great story, Greg. Amen. And whether it's for veterans or any other group, man, just acting on in a very tangible way, lending a helping hand, regardless. We're all charged with doing that. All right. So again, I want to point y'all back to Veteran Voices, the great work that U.S. Army veteran Mary Kate Saliva as host is doing. Check out the latest episode that we've dropped. We also put it in the chat there, featuring U.S. Navy veteran David Trenholm. Greg, also want to call out Digital Transformers, doing great work. Kevin L. Jackson, the fearless host there, one of a kind. He led a great episode last week focused on cybersecurity, network modernization, a lot more, presented in partnership with AT&T Business. It featured Helen Yu and Dr. Sally Eves, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding conversation. Y'all check that out wherever you get your podcast from. You can, just like you can with Supply Chain Now or Veteran Voices or Digital Transformers, you can search that out and download and subscribe. Greg, man, a lot of stuff going on. I meant to make one more point when it comes to veterans, because we've got an episode coming out, Greg, with Tom Harview, who is the Chief Supply Chain Officer with BJC Healthcare, 22-year Army veteran that then transitioned into the healthcare space. And BJC Healthcare is one of the country's largest nonprofit healthcare organizations. It is the state of Missouri's largest employer. I think I've got that right. And he is a case study of why there is such a tremendous opportunity with engaging, hiring veterans and getting them involved in your supply chain, and then some, and what they can do, and not only what they can do, but how they can lead and how they can serve as a force multiplier for your organization. Greg, we've covered a lot of ground here today. And we've got a couple more minutes. You've got a big trip coming up. You're going out to, can I let the cat out of the bag?
Sure.
Okay. So you're headed out to LA. Are you going to get one of those delicious In-N-Out burgers?
I likely will, because there is an enormous In-N-Out right next to LAX airport. I'm not going out there solely for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
No, actually, I'll be there on Wednesday, which is my Amazon day. Some stuff is being accidentally shipped to LAX, so I decided to go get it. Totally kidding. No, I'm not really at liberty to announce what I'm going for till later.
Okay. All right.
But in the next week or two,
okay,
we'll be able to do that. So
I can't wait. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it. The Buzz will get first dibs. We'll see.
Oh, there you go.
Well, hey, let's see here. This LinkedIn user, and Catherine and Amanda, let me know who it is, assists with students finding workforce options. Some want to pursue U.S. Army options, and they appreciate our comments regarding helping veterans in job support. There's so much opportunity there, and that's Susie. Hey, Susie, thanks for that. There's so many opportunities to help our veterans with the transition, with finding meaningful work. Not work below what they have done and what they've got expertise and experience around. we've come a long way. It feels, and I'd love to look at statistics there, but it feels like we've come a long way to addressing that in the last 20 years or so. But in my conversations with veterans from coast to coast and around the world, we still have a lot more heavy lifting to do to honor that commitment. I believe that we have with veterans. All right, so Greg, give us, out of everything we touched on here today, this was like we hadn't had one of these in a while. It's kind of like a Baskin Robbins supply chain buzz here today. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Look, from economy to e-commerce preferences to veterans, of course, to some of our shows, you name it. So what if folks leave this live stream with one thing that they don't forget about? What would that one thing be from your perspective, Greg?
Well, I think we're going to see the economy. Let me set this up a little bit before I give that one thing. I think we're going to see the economy, the markets, go sideways for a good while, probably the next 3+ years. Growth is going to be fairly slow. The stock market, the public markets are going to be fairly slow. We've seen slowdowns in investment in even successful and well-established technology companies. So we'll start to see innovation slow down over the next 1 to 3, maybe even as much as 5 years. I think people have to prepare for kind of a leveling off of things and just recognize that this is part of a cycle. It's part of a cycle that virtually two generations have never been through. Right. So it doesn't signal anything except a cycle. And it's easy in this time where everything has to be a robust or a breakthrough story to get caught up in whatever the hype is. And you can see, as we've done these shows, as we were talking about the economy, Scott, I was realizing that we see it going up, we see it going down, you see the market doing the same thing, and basically it is effectively going sideways or, maybe slightly increasing or decreasing periodically. Yep. You have to think about this on a longer time horizon and realize that there are a lot of people taking the right approach right now, which is to curb spending, curb debt, definitely curb debt, because the interest rates are so very high. And as someone who got trapped by that during the Great Recession, I can tell you that debt at a high rate is virtually impossible to get out of. And I think we have to be aware that now is the time for us to, I don't want to say buckle down, but to become very, very conscious of how you spend and what you spend and whether you need it or whether you want it. The economy is telling us a lot of that right now with prices and shipping, the price of everything, the price of shipping, the price of products and that sort of thing. People are starting to get there in terms of distinguishing between what they need and what they want. Focus on what you need now. Focus on building a solid foundation or maintaining a solid foundation, and be prepared when in the next, like I said, 3 to 5 years, the economy starts to take off again.
Yeah,
that's the thing I could say is build your house on stone, right?
I hadn't heard that one in a while.
Right now is the time to do that.
Don't build it in those shifting sands or whatever hymn that we always reference when we talk about that. A strong foundation that you can spring off of and leverage off of. Well said there, Greg. And hey, Joseph Moretta says, hey,
I just saw that.
If you did go out there solely out to LAX, solely for an In-N-Out burger, no one would blame you, he says.
That's true, and they shouldn't, because it is worth it.
That's right. Delicious. Okay. Well, folks, we're going to wrap a few minutes early here on today's Supply Chain Buzz. Thank y'all for being a part of the programming. Really appreciate all the comments and questions that were put in the chat. Greg, always a pleasure to knock this out with you. Safe travels.
Likewise,
and we look forward to sharing in some good news in a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Big thanks. Big thanks again to Amanda and Catherine and Chantel and all the folks behind the scenes for allowing us to make this happen here today. Folks, whatever you do, make sure you listen to the Startup Whisperer, one Greg White. But hey, take action with some of these things, especially going back on the veterans things. I'm gonna pound that until the day I die, and to my last breath, find a practical way to help out someone in need, especially if they're a veteran. But you got to take action. Deeds, not words, is what it's all about. And on that, with that said, I should say, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.